Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pause for Pedagogy, a conversation with Virginia Byrne discussing practices of expert online instructors fostering social presence, here today with the International Leadership Association. My name is Lisa Endersby, and I'm an educational developer with the Teaching Commons at York University and co-editor of Pause for Pedagogy. The ILA and I are thrilled to welcome Virginia to our latest conversation in the Pause for Pedagogy series. So welcome, Virginia. I'd love if you could begin by sharing just a little bit about who you are.
Sure. Hi, thanks for having me. My name is Virginia Byrne. I'm a PhD candidate here at the University of Maryland, College Park, where I'm in the College of Education and partially in the College of Information, where I study how we support students in higher education using new and different technologies.
Awesome. So very timely that Virginia is thinking about technology and the use of technology, and that's definitely what we're going to dive into today. So thinking about the article that you've written for us, Virginia, what key questions, or maybe just single question even, were you hoping to answer in your research?
Sure. So I'm concerned about online students' sense of isolation. So our students who are taking a class fully online, there's reason to believe that they feel more isolated than our in-class or in-person students. So I'm interested in how expert online educators, what practices they enact to mitigate that sense of isolation. And I think that that's important because isolation is a predictor of low student satisfaction, low sense of belonging, and then often dropout.
Absolutely. And we've talked about this too, and you, our listeners, our readers, will read more about this in the article, but we've been talking about this a lot in leadership and leadership development online. And Virginia has talked about, you've talked about, Virginia, a really interesting framework, this community of inquiry framework in the article. So how does this connect or apply to online learning?
Yeah, so I think the community of inquiry framework, which was first published in 2000 in the Journal of the Internet and Higher Education, I think it naturally fits with online teaching and learning, especially for folks in leadership education, because it's based in constructivism and a constructivist approach to teaching and learning. And it's a great fit for instructors who believe that our best learning happens when we're learning in groups and we're making meaning together, and we're trying to overcome just learning from a book and then regurgitating back. We're trying to really challenge our thinking from talking with others.
Absolutely. And that's just in and of itself such a wonderful definition of leadership and leadership development, challenging our thinking, really exploring some of these areas that aren't often explored. That's great.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give to leadership educators who are interested in exploring this framework or maybe applying some of the insights from your research into their work?
So one of the key components of the framework is establishing a social presence. So social presence is the idea that you feel like the other people on the screen or other people on the discussion board are real humans, so that the other students or the online instructor, they're real people. They're just talking to you through the computer. And that's pretty hard to achieve. So what the framework encourages is some real hard thinking about how do you set up a classroom and set up regular discussions so that your students develop social presence among each other. And then I think what I encourage in this article is that it's important for us as instructors to do the same. So I think if we want our students to be real people on online classes and see their peers as real people who have, perspectives that we should value and questions we should ask, that we need to role model how to do that. I think often it's easy to go onto a discussion board and sort of like write your response and then assume no one's going to read it and then just sort of fake how you comment on other people's, which is often the practice in discussion board teaching. And so I think if we want students to really value the comments of their peers and talk to each other more meaningfully, we have to role model talking to them and listening back. And I think that's sort of hard because what I found from my from my research where I interview these expert instructors is that they have to really calculate how they want to show their personality online. How do they want to appear real? They want to appear professional, but they still want to appear approachable. Like they are funny, but they're not too casual. It's the same way that when we go into class on the first day in an in-person classroom, we're trying to strike the right tone. And so how do we do that on the internet? And I think as leadership educators, being real, being approachable, encouraging your students to be real with each other is so important. And so I hope from this article, we sort of start to think about how do you show up on day one? How do you show up in the first 3 weeks to establish yourself as a real person? And then maybe encourage them to do the same.
Yeah, it's such an important, almost missing piece from some of the things we've been talking about. Those of you who have been along for the ride with other Pause for Pedagogy articles and videos know that we've talked about curriculum. We've certainly talked about pedagogy, but Virginia, I love that you're also considering, well, what does it mean to actually show up in that work? The pedagogy and the curriculum, online or otherwise, is driven by people. And I think it's really neat that we're considering that in-person or just person component to our work. So I think there's going to be a lot of great value coming out of this article.
Yeah, and there's no one right way to do this, right? Mm-hmm. So I think as individual instructors, you have to figure out, like, what's my personality and how do I want to share that? Do I want to share? I interviewed someone who likes to keep her cats in her videos, or when she does online office hours, she likes to have her cats around. That's not going to fit everybody. And so figuring out what's unique to you, if it's, showing pictures of your family or talking about a hobby or sharing funny things that you do in your free time. It's just a way to humanize you so that your students might feel like you're a real person and deserve for them to share back.
Absolutely. So it sounds like there's a lot of really great work coming out of this research, but also some really important next steps or other questions. So where do you see future research or maybe writing headed in this area? And what are you going to be writing about next?
Yeah, so I'm interested in what practices mitigate student sense of isolation. So what do we do to encourage student sense of belonging, student community, maybe online communities of practice in online courses? And so I'm trying to dig into what works and what doesn't work and what's scalable. So that's what I'm chewing on right now. I'm also interested in how we take what we know about feminist pedagogy and active learning and put that into online classroom design. So that's the next stuff I'm writing about. And I'm excited to hopefully get some things out soon.
Cool. I mean, I'm already thinking about the 5 other Pause for Pedagogy articles I'm going to want you to write just coming out of that. That's awesome. Thank you. Thanks for sharing. So, Virginia, is there anything else that you wanted to add or anything else you wanted to share with our readers, watchers, listeners?
Yeah, I think this is a new time for being an online instructor, that we're moving beyond just getting through the content and getting students to interact together and learn deeply. It's also that they have real conversation. And I think that's so hard. And this is a puzzle we have to figure out over the next few years as we start to scale up online classes for disciplines that we previously didn't think would be going online.
Yeah. I love that. Insights and a call for action in less than 30 seconds. Perfect. What a great way to end. Thanks, Virginia. So thank you, Virginia, for joining us today. And thank you, everyone, for watching, listening, and reading. Pause for Pedagogy is an initiative of the Leadership Education Member Interest Group of the International Leadership Association. Our articles and videos are available at www.ila-net.org. You can also follow us on Twitter at @the_ILA. Thanks so much, everyone, and special thanks to Virginia today. We'll be back again soon.